I request Honorable Dr. Justice Anitha Sumanth to please bless the ego audience.
Respected judges on this virtual days, the plethora of dignitaries that we have, including the president and the office bearers of the All India Federation for the Tax Practitioners, delegates, very large number of delegates I see, members, ladies, gentlemen, and my dear friends. Namaskaram and good morning to all of you. The conference chairman, in the course of his address, said that this was in the nature of a family gathering. And I couldn't endorse that sentiment more than what he expressed it as. My association with the Federation has been from the late 80s, from the time my late senior was associated with the Federation. And it's been a pleasure and a privilege to be part of the Federation. And it is a pleasure and a privilege to be part of this gathering here today. Thank you very much for inviting me to be part of this meeting. The last 6 months, I think we will all agree, have been very unusual and rather disturbing. And society, all components of society have addressed the demands and challenges thrown up in our own ways. We have, perhaps those of us gathered here, have been able to, or at least tried to contribute what we could in terms of our efforts, our time, our resources. And each one of us have tried to hone our skills, perhaps, have tried to catch up on reading, have tried various measures to come to terms with the new challenges that are presented. In fact, one thing that struck me as being wonderful was when the conference chairman said that instead of the meal breaks that one normally has during conferences of this nature, you have, the Federation has in fact distributed breakfasts and lunches to destitute people and those in orphanages and in other centers. I think that's an amazing example of how to convert adversity into opportunity. Hats off, kudos to the Federation for this fantastic measure. And I think there would be great value in continuing measures like this. That's the silver lining perhaps one has in a pandemic, where these opportunities present themselves to us to be carried forward long after the pandemic itself, one hopes, has evaporated and gone. The conference itself, which is themed as how to address challenges for tax professionals post-COVID-19, has a star-studded galaxy of speakers who will be addressing us on the various topics. Though I see that the topics are not specifically aimed at addressing post-COVID challenges, I assume that the learned speakers and the experts who will be addressing us will also be talking about those facets of the topic post the epidemic and how to address those issues. My brothers who spoke before me also touched upon some of the technical challenges that this pandemic throws up. Now, I, for one, do not propose to therefore touch upon any of the technical challenges, because we do have experts who are going to be addressing us on those. What I thought I would share my thoughts on is something that all of us as stakeholders have been affected by or have been trying to grapple with over the last 6 to 8 months. And that is a new method or a mode of conducting judicial proceedings itself. Justice Surana, who spoke before me, did touch on it briefly when he said that the age of information technology has now become all the more important when it comes to addressing issues going forward. And he could not be more right. Though he was very humble in saying, in attributing erudition only to the rest of us, I would, speaking for myself, make it very clear that he was only being humble and nothing more. And he is, perhaps speaking for myself again, equally, if not more erudite than what I might be. Video conferencing is not a novel venture. We have been having video conferencing for several years. In fact, I recall more than 10, 12 years ago, the Madras High Court had started a pilot project where 3 courts were identified as being courts to test the efficiency of video conferencing. The tax bench headed by Justice Chitra Venkatraman at that point in time was one of the benches. And the members of the revenue bar, small bar that it is, had all stepped up to try and convert all the existing briefs into soft form and assist the bench in the conduct of these proceedings on a virtual platform. It was tested for about 6 months. It did not, unfortunately, gain ground, and therefore it stopped thereafter. But what I was coming to say is that video conference as a mode of conduct of judicial proceedings has been long been prevalent pan-India. And now what the pandemic has taught us is that it is a very, very able support to traditional methods of conducting judicial proceedings. I think several of the high courts in the country have already issued guidelines to deal with how to conduct virtual proceedings. Quite apart from etiquette itself, what are the official platforms to be accessed, how one accesses them, how one goes about the entire process. And that apart, this is where I come to the request that I wanted to put forth to the Federation. It's very important that we have the input of the bar on this aspect. I would urge the Federation to devote some time, effort, perhaps set up the requisite committee to examine the virtual mode of conduct of proceedings and to put together your heads and come out with a white paper on how best one could take forward virtual court as a concept. I think virtual courts are here to stay. Nobody can deny that. But at the same time, we would all agree that it can, at least at this juncture, only be a support to physical hearing and cannot substitute physical hearing. We have all, my colleague judges would agree, have had very interesting incidents and episodes when it comes to virtual hearing. We have had hearings conducted by learned counsels sitting in cars. In fact, we've had moving vehicles where in addition to making their submissions before the bench, sometimes they make comments to passerbys on the road, etc., without realizing the sanctity of the court proceedings. These are all various things that one would have to take into account when you look at virtual proceedings as a way forward in the future. Therefore, this is one thing that I would put forward to the Federation to explore and to assist the courts in making sure that virtual courts are as easy and as optimally used as possible. You will agree that virtual courts are a necessity insofar as they provide a level playing field to all learned counsels wherever they may be situated, not just in your district, in your city, in your state, or in your country. You may be situated anywhere in the world, but still conduct your case before a high court bench. There are any number of learned counsel professionals who are situated in remote corners who have been unable to access a high court hearing simply because of the difficulties presented by geography. Now geography has melted away, and you have a position where anybody sitting anywhere can make their presence felt before a High Court bench. I think we should, as it has been said, seize the moment. This is one of the silver linings that the dark cloud of the pandemic has presented to us. I don't want to take much more of your time, and we are looking forward to the technical sessions that follow. I will end with a quote that appeared to me to be very apt. Strength, it has been said, does not come just from physical capacity. It comes from an indomitable will. And that will is what is called for each of us to express and to display. My best wishes for the conduct of a very successful, very purposeful conference. Again, it's a pleasure having been with all of you here today. Namaskaram.